What's older than we think? The electric car. What is likely the first human-carrying electric vehicle with its own power source was tested along a Paris street in April 1881 by French inventor Gustave Trouvé. The first crude electric car was built in the 1830s, but it was essentially a semi-functioning model. The electric car was a direct competitor to gasoline-powered vehicles until the 1920s, when roads got better, people started driving further than the range of an electric car, and the world started finding major oil reserves. The First Nations of North America, especially in Canada. Most of their histories are oral, so settlers scoffed at their claim that this was their home for thousands of years because lack of proof. Many of the cultures were wiped out and key regions renamed for favorite European generals, who never even set foot in the Americas. Turns out, surprise surprise, recent carbon dating of ancient indigenous villages date them back to at least 14,000 years. That's before the fucking pyramids. The sentiment that modern society is degenerate and that the youth are to blame is, IIRC, one of the oldest things we have written down. That I can remember off the top of my head. Cato the Elder complained that the younger generations were becoming too Greek, and Socrates used to complain that the younger generations were ruining their brains by writing instead of memorizing information. There are far more older examples, but those are the oldest I remember. Maybe Socrates was onto something, tongue sticking out. Edit, a few people have pointed out the Socrates thing is a misquote. Brain surgery. In 1997, archaeologists discovered an ancient tomb in the French village of Ensisheim from 5000 BC, which contained the decomposing body of a 50-year-old man with holes in his skull. After a thorough examination, it was determined that the holes, located near the frontal lobe, were caused by a type of surgery, not by force trauma, and the operation appears to have been successful because the wounds healed before the patient's death. To this day, however, researchers cannot say for sure what exactly the surgery was trying to fix. The theory of quantum mechanics. Some of the earliest discoveries in the field date back to the early 19th century, starting with Faraday's discovery of cathode rays in 1838, Gustav Kirchhoff's work on black body radiation in 1850, and Boltzmann's theory of discrete energy states in 1877. The name itself was coined by Max Born, Werner Heisenberg, and Wolfgang Pauli in the early 1920s. For comparison, the theory of plate tectonics was first put forward in 1912 and wasn't widely accepted until 1965. Ferns. The fern, class Polypodiopsida, class of non-flowering vascular plants that possess true roots, stems, and complex leaves and that reproduce by spore, constitute an ancient division of vascular plants, some of them as old as the Carboniferous period, beginning about 358.9 million years ago, and perhaps older. Their type of life cycle, dependent upon spores for dispersal, long preceded the seed plant life cycle. For comparison, that puts them about 113 million years older than non-bird dinosaurs, which lived between about 245 and 66 million years ago. A bit different answer, but ancient people. A lot of times you hear people talk about the life expectancy of ancient people being around 35, so you picture a really young society when you think of the Romans, Egyptians, Mesopotamians, or even hunter-gatherers. This isn't really the case. The average is 35 because infant mortality and early childhood death was so common. If you just take the life expectancy of people who reach adulthood, 16, then the life expectancy is easily in the early 60s. There were plenty of 70 and even 80-year-olds 2,000 years ago. The Susquehanna River in northeastern USA. Rivers are usually not very old, geologically speaking, maybe a few million years, and almost always are younger than the feature, mountains, or a plateau, they are cutting through. But the Susquehanna River is older than the Appalachian Mountains it cuts through, which are fairly old mountains, and they were formed when the land masses came together to form Pangaea. The Susquehanna River is about 330 million years old, and is one of the oldest, if not tied for the oldest, river in the world.